Welcome to the Inspired Action Podcast. This is where we have motivational, inspiring conversations and interviews that we hope you'll enjoy listening to. If you're interested in creating more balance in your life, understanding your 5-element energetic nature, finding the path of greatest ease,
or releasing the baggage of this lifetime and discovering ancient alchemy that can help you fly in your life, join us and other inspired actioneers on this alchemical transformational journey.
Welcome back to the Inspired Action Podcast. This is Jay, and I'm here with my co-host, as always, Lita Herman.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Pod 52. And it's our second half of this fantastic interview we're in the middle of with our special guest, Mo Gawdat.
Yes, and you know what? This has just been so much fun. I've been re-listening to them and just enjoying them as much as we did when we recorded them with him, and it's just inspiring.
It is inspiring. So he inspired us so much, that he's the reason we launched this new series, Happy on the Way to Happiness.
Yeah, he was just in, this 1billionhappy.org, as we're talking about in this podcast. It's a global event that I really hope everyone, it's not just to be aware of happiness. It's about how to solve it. And one of the ways is many ways, many ways. But one of the ways is the way Mo has very nicely detailed in his book.
Yes.
Solve for Happy.
So should we get on with the show?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
Here's the rest of Mo.
Believe it or not, in physics, in the very core of physics, if it wasn't for the molecular forces between the atoms, you could simply walk through the wall, just like the light would go through a liquid, right? Photons are particles at the end of the day, and the liquid is made up of atoms and other particles. And yes, you can fly through it. It's really interesting if you can see through the illusion. Not that I'm saying I plan to walk through walls anytime soon, but at least I know that conceptually it's possible.
That's the later stage of alchemy, the later stages.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm a good student.
Yes. Well, and at the end you get immortality. So,
but I have immortality already.
Exactly. Oh my God! I can't believe you said that. Yay!
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer for me.
That's what we say. Yeah.
Again, surprisingly from physics. So when I wrote Solve for Happy, I had to write it. I had to discuss the topic of death because you can talk about happiness losing his child if I don't discuss death.
Right.
I needed to discuss death like the rest of the book from a scientific point of view, and if you really get to the core of a real integrated understanding of the Big Bang and quantum physics and the theory of relativity, you would realize that we never really die, that we're never really born.
Right.
That this physical form of our dies and is born, but that's not the extent of you. That life existed before the physical and will exist after the physical. It's it's a no-brainer. Really.
No-brainer. And that I think your discussion of all of those topics, even evolution, was really great for me because I hadn't really put a lot of thought into it. And I think I still had some assumptions. Just you grow up with it. You just think about these things as truths. And I love when you say DDAA. Is that right?
R.
Yeah.
Duh. I love that, we believe in all of these facts that they're true for us now, but they may not be true.
This is what blows you away, is that the scientific method tells you to question everything.
Yes.
Other than what the scientific method tells you.
Yes.
It's like, where did that come from? The reality is the assumptions around things like evolution are, the evolution is undeniable,
Yes.
Right.
But then the story that sometimes scientists will put behind it becomes very blurred. I mean, like again, one of my favorite examples is quantum physics. So the equations we have in quantum physics are super accurate. We use them to create lasers. They work. They're amazing, right? But, the story of probability and the superposition and the Copenhagen interpretation, as they call it, that particles can be in two places at the same time.
Yes.
That's an interpretation. Of course, we all love it because it sounds amazing and it makes me look very cool when I talk about it.
It sounds very cool,
right? But the truth is, we have no. We have to debate it, and a lot of scientists are debating it. They're debating not the theory. The theory is in place. It's the interpretation of the theory, right? When people would look at the Earth and say it's flat, it's because they had observations and they interpreted them as the Earth is flat. Okay, if they didn't question that assumption of, okay, we've decided it's flat, can we just move on with the rest of physics, please? Right? If they didn't re-question that, then we would have never been here today on a Zoom call. We would have never gone that far.
Right. It's true. And the arrogance, like you said, the arrogance is what gets us not to question and not to delve into these things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I felt very impacted by your discussion of these topics, because I guess I wasn't questioning some of the basic theories of life as we believe in it as a culture. So I appreciated that a lot.
I'm delighted that you did. Thank you.
It's great.
Well, can we talk a little bit about the Wu Wei? Because we talk about it a lot with people, and I think when Lita read the chapter on the Wu Wei, she said, "All right, that's it. We got to meet this guy," because we read a lot of books on all different things, and they're always maybe a little different perspective. And she's like, "This is just too much that we have in common." And then we wrote that email to you. But so let's talk a little bit about the Wu Wei.
I think the funniest thing is to get someone that believes in Wu Wei when I'm a business executive that always is driven by doing and achieving and numbers and results. And you'll be amazed that some of the biggest achievements in life are done through doing nothing at all.
Right.
Okay, and people miss that totally. That just goes above everyone's head. People don't see it, but the biggest achievements in life, are really not because of your efforts. As a matter of fact, they're because of you getting out of the way.
That's right. Okay? Beautiful.
And so of course, the original. The first time I read about Wu Wei was a description of how the Chinese farmer would have to sow the seeds and then wait, because if he keeps doing things, he's gonna spoil everything, and there will not be another chance to grow rice this season. Huh?
Yeah.
But then I learned it, believe it or not, in the stock market. So wow. I was a very serious day trader at a young age, and if you're a day trader, not an investor, it's a hyper emotional place. Mm-hmm. You're constantly bombarded with news and signals, especially if you use mathematical, technical signals, as we call them. And your emotions are just going through roller coasters from the minute you decide to buy a stock to the minute you actually buy it, to the minute that the stock goes up and down, and then CNBC goes on stage and on TV and says something that is very complex but basically means you're an idiot. How did you buy it? Yeah. And amazingly, believe it. So I did really well in the stock market. I stopped for ethical reasons. But as I was learning, the whole thing was, could you actually do your analysis when you're unemotional, and then when you've made your choices, stick to your plan, just sit there and don't sell it until you hit your signals.
Yeah. Wow.
And I had two signals. I had a signal that said, this is going down, sell it, or another signal that said, this is going up, adjust your stop losses and stay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And just by bringing it down to this and literally sitting for hours on end, watching emotional signals, but getting unmoved by all of them. Wow. That was really when it hit me, that sometimes doing nothing at all, is really the way to make progress in life.
Wow. That's a fantastic way to look at it. I was thinking about, it's very similar to sports, when you're moving with So that's an issue of waiting, but Wu Wei is also like that movement has not a lot of this going on, the brain trying to tell you, adjust this, adjust that. It's just this like
flow. You're
flow.
in flow. You're in total flow.
That Michael Jordan shooting that shot at the end.
Absolutely.
And all the different, Tom Brady throwing the clutch pass, and in this flow of the energy of the universe.
Yeah, which is so I wrote about flow heavily in my second book, the one I finished. Because flow is, from a neuroscientific point of view, it's the most unusual state you can be in, because it's not really deliberate thought, and it's not incessant thought either. No. Okay, it's you really in tune with all of the signals of the universe, with all of the signals coming from within you. Okay,
yes.
And the beauty of flow is that anyone who's ever been in the state of flow, people from the outside would think that you're amazing. You're like this pianist that's building 400 million tunes in a second, right? But inside, it's the easiest state you've ever been.
Yes.
So easy, huh?
Yes.
When you're in flow. I mean, when I write and I'm in flow, I just don't feel the time. I write and I enjoy the hell out of it, and it's just beautiful.
I think of it as you surrender, and it just flows.
Absolutely.
Right? And try to force it or manipulate it.
Exactly. And overanalyze it and let your brain tell you, no, maybe it should be different. Maybe you should do it this way. Maybe they will hate it. Maybe they will like it. And who cares?
Yeah.
Right?
You got to surrender. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that whole idea of doing without doing. So the model I build everything that I write on is a simple model, actually. When you hear it, I call it be, learn, do. Okay. And again, because our world is hyper left-brained, we tend to have a lot of doing and very little being.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And because you have very little being, you're not learning what you need to learn to do.
Yeah.
So, and again, I remember masculine and feminine. Doing is a very masculine quality. Yes. Being is a very, very feminine quality.
Yes.
And so to achieve that flow, you want to first allow yourself to completely be. And to completely be is to connect not only just with what's inside you, but with everything outside you and everyone outside you and every living being outside. You have to connect. You have to find to feel the truth, which unfortunately is never found in thoughts. It's found in that
the heart.
Brings us right back to the home palace, Lita.
Oh, that's it.
Wanted to know the home palace mode. That's it right there.
Oh,
that's the definition of the home
palace. I have one of those. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Peaceful, that stillness inside of you.
That's incredible. And when you get that,
everything goes. Everything's perfect.
Yeah, and suddenly the learning becomes directed, and the doing becomes a breathe.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And how many of us, and I say that with, again, with love and respect, because I want to empower the feminine. How many of us women would sit back and say, they told me I should be this. They wanted me to look that way. They should, right?
Yeah.
But the reality in me, in that home palace, this is how I am.
Yes. Right.
This is not how I should be. It's how I am.
Yes.
This is when I be. This is who I am.
You talk about the peaceful and the stillness. That's when you're really.
And then if you can just accept that as your home base, and then venture out of there.
Yeah. Well, we talked about the night, like the wealth and the health, and so when the home is good, all the other ones line up.
All of the other follow.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And then funny enough, you get that right, and then there is no need for the others anymore. Mm-hmm. There's no need to go out doing like crazy like we do. Right. There is no need to to criticize or to change or to have self-loathing or it's okay. This is who I am.
Yes.
And it's beautiful.
Yes.
It's perfect. Like you just said, born perfect. Who I am is, honestly, it's okay. It's not much worse, and it's not much better than anyone else.
That's beautiful.
It might be for someone, who likes bald heads and beards, right? But it could be not for someone else.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. I thought about your chapter on fear and suffering and pain.
Definitely talking
and
about that.
And what you're saying now is really interesting to me, because I was trying to work out in Kung Fu. When I started Kung Fu, I came to it really late, and I'd done Tai Chi all my life. And then I started Kung Fu. And my first week, they said jump. And I jumped because that's the masculine thing to do. If someone says do it, you do it. And I hurt myself. So I bent my knee backwards. And luckily, I'm a healer and it wasn't a big deal. But I kept sort of learning. I was learning how to be in Wu Wei when I did Kung Fu. And fear would interrupt. So I don't know if this makes sense to you, but they'd say, here's a new jump. Here, do a butterfly kick. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. That's crazy stuff. Like, really? And I mean, I look like the Matrix guy, Neo, right? So anyway, but fear would come up. And then I started to say, I can be friends with this. If I'm in the state of fear, it means I'm not in the Wu Wei. Not time for me to do the jump. I need to learn more. That was the word that was missing. So I would really watch them. And I try different ways of getting in the jump that was different, not dangerous. And then I would learn. And then suddenly it would all click and I could do it. And I never got hurt after that. And I don't know if that's the missing piece for me, the be, learn, do. So
the part that shocked me when I was building that model was the definition of learning, because how conditioned we are with school is knowledge, right? But if you really dive deep into the neuroscience of our brains and understand that knowledge is coded exactly the same way as memories, exactly the same way as skills, exactly the same way as recognition. All of them, literally, if you want to understand how the brain works, it's, take a picture of a human brain and go to Google search and search for, image search with that image. Google will send you back pictures of other brains and minced meat at $2.99 in the supermarket. Okay, the truth is, our biological genius is truly just a piece of meat. So it responds to the exact same stimuli, like you go to the gym. When you go to the gym, if you squat all the time with very heavy weights and never exercise your upper body, you're going to look like a pyramid. This is how it's going to be. It's as simple as that. The other way around is true. If you just work out your shoulders, you're going to look like a toothpick with a couple of big things on top, right? And the brain works exactly the same way. So learning is surprisingly has very little to do with knowledge. It has a lot to do with firing the same neurons together over and over and over, so that you literally engrave in your brain a piece of code that works. Okay, so that the next time you jump without thinking about it, in total flow. Okay, and fear is the biggest reason why we don't do that, because when we are afraid, we don't practice, we don't try, we don't jump. Okay, and when we jump, we mix that jump with input from other parts of the brain that are not realities, that they are just exaggerated illusions of I'm going to fall. And the funny thing about the brain is it literally doesn't distinguish between what's coming from inside and what's coming from outside. So you're jumping and falling in your head at the same time, and it sees both of these as one reality.
Yes.
And that reality is not, suggesting any good learning at all.
Right.
And unfortunately, by the way, it is actually wrong learning. So again, our brains don't distinguish between learning good things and learning bad things. If you complain all the time, your brain will go like, okay, we need more neurons for this function that is called complaining. Let's just become better at it.
Wow.
And then you learn to be a complainer.
And
if you're unhappy all the time, you are basically building an unhappy brain.
And in your book, you said something very interesting when you said there's really no reason to give fear any credit. But then you said, but if you think, so I forgot this right. If you think in a fear way, sometimes you're creating that scenario. And I think that's what I came to in the Kung Fu was, if I'm really sure I'm going to fall, then I'm probably going to fall.
You're absolutely going to make it. Yeah.
So I needed to get to the state where I could really feel the confidence, really feel the flow, and then it could go. But anyway, all right, cool.
That's fantastic. All right.
All right.
How about trust with a capital T? We're talking about trust. You want to talk a little bit later and then see what
my final question, because I know we're getting towards the end here, was I don't know where this fits into the Solve for Happy or maybe your new books, but there's a theory that we have in Chinese theory that there is this ability to feel safe and trust, but it's like, I call it trust with a capital T. It's not trusting someone else. You know, as much as we love our spouses or our parents, you know, and we think we can trust them, ultimately we have ourselves to trust and something maybe greater than ourselves. And so the greater than yourself is the idea that I think is helping people who are who've had a lot of trauma or a lot of depression. You know, one of the things that we work on is how do we connect them back up to that trust? And I wanted to know what you thought about that.
Yeah, it's so simple when you think about it. You're okay. You're always okay. Mm-hmm. People just miss that point. Mm-hmm. So the second you have the brain cycles to think about tomorrow or about yesterday in fear or in regret or in whatever negative feeling that you have, that ability to dedicate those brain cycles to this in itself means that you're okay. Hmm. Because if a tiger is right in front of you, if there is an actual threat in front of you, you wouldn't have the brain cycles for that. You would be thinking about the tiger. Yes. You know what I mean? Right? Yes. The fact that you're thinking about, but after tomorrow I might actually drop my, $10 bill or whatever, right? That basically means that you're not dropping it right now, that you're absolutely fine right now.
That's a good point.
And what people don't understand is that without a thought, you're always okay. You're always okay. Every challenge we've faced in life, including, and I say that, of course, I don't want to undermine some of the horrendous, traumas that we get exposed to, almost all of us growing up, and many of us, of course, get an unfair share of it, if you want. But the truth is, it's gone. In the absence of a thought, your life right now is absolutely okay. Okay. The only way you can be not okay right now is a physical harm, or creating a thought about the past, or creating a thought about the future, so that you don't feel good.
Yes. That's okay? I do it all the time. You don't look back, don't look forward, right in the moment.
It's always here and now, and here is always fine.
Yeah.
It's always okay.
Power of now.
Power of now.
It's the only thing we have. By the way, this is not just spirituality.
Right.
This is the core of space-time continuum. This is the core of one of the most valuable theories we have in physics. If you understand how the world works from a time point of view, you only have access to this slice of now.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is a thought. Yeah. Everything else is a thought. So there is absolutely no way you can live in the future. When the future comes, it's going to be now.
Yeah.
Right.
There is you've never lived in the past. When the past happened, it was now. Okay, and we just turn it into our heads into madness. Okay? And believe it or not, some people find this weird, but what worked for me in my life was being an engineer and an executive. Okay, which basically meant I would be receiving a problem, and instead of thinking about the problem and magnifying it, I would say, okay, what's the reality of this problem? Let's just get to the truth of the magnitude of it, and let's find an answer. Okay? And you get those skills, and you apply them to your life, and you realize, sorry to say, there is nothing to fear.
Right.
What's the worst that can happen? And in the absence of physical pain, physical illnesses, chronic diseases, whatever, those things that really, really, really are unsolvable, everything else is okay. You lose a little bit of money, you make a little bit of money. Doesn't matter how clever you are, it's going to be the case.
Yeah.
And even pain, current now pain is over time is sustained because of time. And then when you really go to the now moment, oftentimes the pain disappears.
Of course. Yeah. And I don't share that in public because a lot of people wouldn't even get it when you talk about it. But because of the incredible number of wonderful people that I meet on daily basis because of my mission, I meet a lot of people with chronic pain, with pain that is everlasting. And after a while they say, it just fades in the background. As long as I don't give it the brain cycles to give it life, it doesn't exist.
Exactly. Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
So let's talk a little bit about your mission, the 1 billion happy. And, we're doing a whole series on happiness. And so we're really inspired to
we want to help you in your mission.
Help you in your mission.
Help me in my mission. Please help me in my mission.
We want to help. We want to help. We could tell 2 people each.
Or maybe a couple more, but we'll at least get you
2 people is the minimum quota I accept. Okay? I
think like that to be a much bigger number. Yes, we'll be a much bigger number.
So the mission is very straightforward, honestly, and a lot of people wanted me to overcomplicate it and build, tools and books, and I basically look. It's very straightforward. It's 3 components. Component number 1 is you are born happy. Okay? It's your birthright. The modern society convinced you that it's okay to feel unhappiness to achieve success. That's absolute bullcrap. Okay? It's not okay to catch the flu. When you catch the flu, you do something about it. It's also not okay to be unhappy. When you feel unhappy, you should do something about it. It's very straightforward.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So that's number 1. Number 2 is do something about it. Okay. And it's really very straightforward. Through neuroplasticity, it's like going to the gym. It's investing in your happiness 1 hour a day, 3 to 4 times a week. Read a book, watch a video, spend time with people who are happy, learn from them. Listen to a spiritual teacher and get upset with a few of the things that he says, even if you're not spiritual, but find a couple of gold nuggets, whatever you want. Okay. But give yourself an hour a day, 3 to 4 times a week to be happy. Okay. That's number 2. Number 3 is, I assure you, if you do that, you're going to become happier. So when you get to that point, have the compassion in you to want another person to be happy. Okay. And all I ask people is, I say, 2 people. Make 2 people your responsibility. Tell 2 people what you learned. Tell them to prioritize their happiness. Tell them to spend an hour a day. Okay. And if you tell 2 people and they tell 2 people and they tell 2 people, we change the whole world. We get to 1 billion happy in 5 years. That's actually doable.
I saw you do the thing. I was like, she's got it. It's right there. Double, double, double. Yeah.
It truly is a very simple doubling function. Huh? And from where we are today, if we double every year, we'll get to 1 billion happy in 5 years. But that's not the point. The point is, believe it or not, I've been very fortunate. I was a Google executive for a long time. I could probably put an ad out there that is viewed by 1 billion people, and I say the mission is done. Okay? That's not what this is about. Our world needs this. Okay? Our world needs fixing, and our world needs a sense of urgency. Now, I think the success of this mission is not that I reach 1 billion happy. I'm not going to reach 1 billion happy. This is Jesus scale. Okay? To reach 1 billion people is beyond one person. But if we hold together and there is 1 million of us that champion 1 billion happy, and I get forgotten, and I and my team get forgotten, then this is a mission that succeeded and that will be sustainable for our future.
It could even be like the 100th monkey at that point. The idea that the monkey on the island, is doing this, and then over here, enough monkeys do it.
Absolutely.
Maybe we're connected DNA wise as a collective.
Absolutely. I believe we are turning, okay, not for the spiritual talk of it's about time and there are cosmic rays and so all of that. I think it's because we can't take it anymore.
Good point.
Yeah, the lies of the modern world have been exposed, right?
Yeah.
You open switch on your news channel, wherever you are in the world. Okay, I don't care where you are. I don't care what day it is. I don't care what time it is. It's going to be the following: a politician did something that's annoying, followed by a threat that you have around your well-being,
Yes.
followed by a little bit of violence that happens somewhere near you, followed by an economic challenge that you may have to face in the next few years, and then followed by a child hugged his mother just to make sure that we don't, leave the news and never come back.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
It's like fill in the blanks.
it's fill in the blanks. They find different titles and different words. You're smart enough to recognize that this is not working for you.
Right.
It's not adding anything.
Yes.
And by the way, as much as they aggravate you around, certain political positions or whatever, you don't make a difference.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it's voting time, do your analysis and go vote.
Yes.
Okay. When it's just aggravation over and over and over, find your peace. Okay.
Yes.
And I tell people all the time, I say, people, choose something to champion. You can't champion everything. You can't fix, Donald Trump tweeting and Brexit at the same time. It's just way too much.
Good point.
So, just choose one of them and try to make that your life's purpose. And if you ask me what your life purpose should be, it should be happiness and compassion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So just not to confuse people. Happiness is your birthright. Make it your priority. Invest in your happiness an hour a day, 4 times a week, and make compassion drive you to make another person happy. 2 people, your sister, your best friend, whatever that is. Every one of us tells 2 people who tell 2 people, we will change the world in 5 years. I think that's absolutely a worthwhile goal.
Jay and I are really devoted to the part about the 1 hour, because we've been creating these meditations that people can do where I just talk them through, even if they don't meditate regularly. So they even say they'll do it in the car if they're waiting, or not driving, but if they're just like sitting there doing nothing. But one of the things we keep saying is it's called self-cultivation in Taoism. Allowing yourself the time to cultivate yourself like a garden.
Yes.
And that, can bring about that home palace happiness that we talked about in your heart,
Yeah. And believe it or not, it doesn't work if you spend 10 hours doing it. It has to be an hour 10 times.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. And I like to tell people, be happy on the way to happiness.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
They're like, it's a thing and they have to get there, but just be happy on the way.
Exactly. Enjoy the journey.
How many times have you heard people say, oh, if I get this, I'll be happy? How about happy on the way to that?
Yeah. Absolutely. Never happens. And when you get this, you're happy for 3.5 minutes. And then you go like, what was the next one that if I get, I'll be happy?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
well, it's been awesome. We could literally talk. We didn't even get even close.
We had a list of things.
Okay, so let's do another one.
How
about when you're finished with your next book and we read it, we should get together and
absolutely. And I'm asking everyone to please help us on the happiness mission. And I think if we get responses from people with more questions, perhaps we can get together and talk.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
We love what you're doing, and you inspired us.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And you taught me so much. So this was a 2-way podcast. I loved that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I'll invite you to my podcast soon so that you can tell my audiences that.
That would be fantastic.
Are you going to have one?
I'm hoping to have one.
I think you should.
Fantastic. If you ever need any thoughts about getting started, we've been in the trenches and we're feeling pretty good now.
I do, so I'll take you up.
All right.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Mo. We feel the same way. All right. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that is how we're going to end it with Mo. There was an amazing conversation. His project is 1billionhappy.org. Everyone check it out. Be a part of it if you're interested. Read the book. Support the things that Mo's about. And the world will be a better place.
Better place. That's such a great idea.
We're going to continue this Happy on the Way to Happiness. And thank you, Mo, for really inspiring us and inspiring the world.
Yes. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Inspired Action Podcast, and you've reached the end. Woohoo! Woohoo! why not celebrate a little bit and click that subscribe button right there. We love having you with us on this journey, and we want it to continue.
You can also rate and review this podcast. And if you have already, thank you so much. We read all reviews, and your reviews help other people find this podcast as well. You can also be a part of this podcast yourself by submitting a voice recording message and emailing it to us at Lita@inspiredactionpodcast.com or Jay@inspiredactionpodcast.com.
And if you want, you can join our Facebook group or follow us on Instagram.
Join us next week for another Inspired Action conversation. And thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, and remember to hug the dog.